If you crack first, Dave, it won't make you any less of a man.
I'm nowhere near cracking.
Neither am I, my friend.
Dave. And Matthew, what is it now? For God's sake, no one's smoking, okay? But nothing! You know what we need around here is an anti-whining ordinance. So just sip your sniveling little lip and haul your skinny ass out of here!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. We have breaking news. A bomb was dropped on DC Comics today. And I must say, I'm not completely surprised, but I imagine DC has probably been taken a little bit off guard. We have now had the writer of Amazing Spider-Man leave Marvel early to go work at Substack. And now James Tynion, writer of Batman, has turned down a contract to extend his time at DC, continue working on the flagship character in all of comic books, to go work at Substack. Joe Corallo is with me, comic book writer, award-winning editor. How you doing, Joe?
I'm all right, but taken off guard too. This is quite the bombshell.
Well, we've been talking about here on the channel, once they did the pandemic shutdown, there's been a lot of upheaval in the industry, and we saw essentially DC wiped out almost all their editorial staff. They got rid of a lot of their longtime executives. There's been a huge shakeup, and we know we've got this WarnerMedia Discovery merger happening next year. Not exactly the most stable working environment. And somebody with James Tynion's box office appeal, he's got so many of his own creator-owned works that are doing really well right now. Anyway, you've got Nice House on the Lake with DC on Black Label, but you've also got Something Has Killed the Children and several other projects. And he decided to bet on himself. I am not surprised in the least, because it does not feel like DC Comics and WarnerMedia is a stable place right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be DC and Warner are going to be stable insofar as the character of Batman isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Mm-hmm. I think the instability or the idea of potential instability comes from, the handing over, the moving to Discovery. Who's going to next year, once that probably firms up, are they going to get rid of more people, bring more people in? There's no guarantee James was going to stay on the book after they moved there. And, quite frankly, when you're writing Batman and then you're off Batman, it's like, well, what do you do from there? And, some people have worked out a path and things to do at DC, but it is kind of like, well, I kind of got to do the big thing. So
it's
what do you
crazy
do?
If you think about it. Just, 24 months ago, Scott Snyder would have been doing all the big events. Tom King was still a pretty big name at DC Comics, although he's still there. Jeff Johns is obviously doing special projects, Three Jokers, Doomsday Clock. So a lot of their big talent, as far as their long-standing talent, your Scott Snyder, your Jeff Johns, they're moving on. They're doing their own creator-owned work. You got Best Jacket Press going to Comixology with a huge deal there. Going to be printing eventually on trades, I believe, with who is it? It's Dark Horse. Jeff Johns has his own imprinted image with Mad something.
Was it Mad Ghost?
Mad Ghost. Yes, he's got his Mad Ghost imprint over an image.
And
Tom
Brian
King
Cunningham editing some of that stuff too.
Yeah. He's getting lower and lower tier projects. You mentioned the editors. We've got Jamie Rich, who was basically Tom King's editor. It's gone to Tapas. We got Mark Doyle over at IDW now. It's crazy the amount of upheaval they've had there. Who would they even have to write Batman to follow James Tynion anymore? Is it, Josh Williamson?
It might be. I mean,
we know John Ridley was supposed to be writing Batman after Tom King with, James Tynion have a short run, but his sales went up so much he stayed on the book. But John Ridley's got his own Batman now.
Yeah, but this does open the door for Joshua Williamson to move into a different area. This leaves more things open for if Venditti wanted to do more. There's going to be a bit of a vacuum there, and some of the other parts of this that are also like we're really not going to know the impact till later on. But there were other names besides James of people who are being taken. I mean, there's the New York Times article this morning throws around other people, including Saladin Ahmed, Hickman, Ram V, Teeny Howard?
Absolutely.
Like, this is...
Grant Morrison just moved on to their own special project working with NBC Universal developing projects.
And you know, this speaks to something bigger that you've spoken about. I know Perch has brought up, and I think this also is true for a lot of the people that, you know, watch your live stream, comment on your videos. Like, people have been looking for something to disrupt the industry, to shake things up, to get people to get out of their comfort zone and, you know, really rattle things. And I don't think anyone, even last year, would have predicted that the big disruptor in the industry would have been Substack.
It's crazy. It knocked off the Amazing Spider-Man and Batman writer.
Yeah.
I couldn't have seen this coming. Now, I imagine, you know, if DC were smart, they would back the Brinks truck up to Chip Zdarsky, who's been working on some Batman-related books. They've been really high quality. But even he said specifically, I don't want to work on Spider-Man at Marvel because I want to work on my other stuff. I want to work on lower-profile characters so I can do what I want with less editorial oversight. Yeah. It sounds like he wouldn't even take the job.
Yeah, I mean... That can change if they decide all of a sudden, like,
it's all about the zeros, right?
Oh yeah. So like there's that chance. But I think what we've been seeing is that DC and Marvel have been reluctant to do that recently. That does not mean they won't decide, hey, now's the time. Let's nip this in the bud and really stop this nonsense from happening. Or they might take the approach they've been taking, which is like, all right, good luck. And when that doesn't work out, see if we pick up the phone. So you never know. This is, who knows what the hell is going to happen in the next couple of years with all this.
Absolutely. And these are some of the details. James Tynion's last Batman issue will be in November with Batman 117. I believe his last issue at DC Comics will be the Joker number 14 in April of 2022. So he is going to finish out some projects. We know he's kind of co-writing, I think, with Matthew Rosenberg, that DC Universe versus Zombies. No, it's Vampires. My bad. That Vampires project that he was doing. But this is what James had to say. Very impactful words. Substack's contract is the best I've ever been given in a decade as a professional comic book writer. He's the Batman writer. Substack is beating DC's numbers. He was just offered a new 3-year contract. A grant from Substack to create a new slate of original comic book properties directly on their platform that my co-creators and I would own completely, was Substack taking none of the intellectual property rights or even the publishing rights. Those are pretty good deals. He continues on and says, instead, I'm going to dedicate my whole brain to building a bunch of really cool stuff on my own terms without having to get permission from any publisher to make it. He wants creative freedom, and he wants the rights to the things that he creates. He's not going to have the rights to Punchline, Miracle Molly, The Gardener, the Underbroker, the Designer, and so many other characters that he's created within the last year on Batman.
Yeah. No, and that's something I think that's also been brought up. Like, I think you've talked about it, and others of that idea of like, okay, he's pumping out a lot of IP for this company, but what's that going to mean? You know, like, is this like a recipe for being, you know, bitter 10 years from now when they make a movie with the character and you get like $1,000 courtesy check or something like that? You know, like it's interesting. But yeah, Substack is clearly, they have the money to throw around.
They are a market disruptor, not only in comic books, but in journalism and publishing.
Yeah, that's huge. Like this is massive. I don't think hearing the news is enough. I think it's going to take everyone like a couple of days to like really like stew in it and be like, oh my God, they took out like the two biggest IPs like globally. It would be hard to say that there's that much bigger than stuff like, you know, Batman and Spider-Man. You know, if you're picking one from each of the companies of just like a solo hero, you know, maybe Superman is slightly more iconic and the symbol's more recognizable, but but still,
the sales aren't even close.
Yeah. So
it's crazy. Now we do know that when Nick Spencer decided to leave Marvel, go to Substack, and he announced it, there was some pushback on this one, Joe Kroll. The pitchforks kind of came out as Doc and I said, he decided to detach himself from the hive and go do his own thing.
Yeah.
And people were calling him a Nazi and bringing up all kinds of stuff. Do you think James Tynion, who seems to be nothing but a pretty swell guy, I've had a little bit of criticism for him on the channel here and there, but seems like a nice guy that's well liked in the industry. Do you think he's opening himself up to some criticism and maybe some people going out there and trying to dig up some skeletons in his closet?
I don't think we'll have that, and to an extent that is hypocritical of the people involved. But, I've met James. He's a great, personable guy, always upbeat at a convention, always happy to chat about his work. He's just a very easy to get along with guy. And I think that's part of how he gets as far as he has in the industry. And the other people, like, we were mentioning too, Saad Ahmed, Hickman, Teenie Howard, Ram V, like, no one is going to make the kind of accusations against them as they did with Nick Spencer. I think all of a sudden you're going to see that stuff dry up, and there is hypocrisy in that. A lot of it comes from how Nick responded to a lot of the criticism at the time on his Captain America run. And there are people who are still bitter about that about 3 years later or so. So I think
also because he ran for office as a Republican is why they really decided to go after him.
Yeah, they dug that up because they were upset with him from his Captain America run. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy stuff. And I say, good job on James Tynion. Go out and bet on yourself.
Absolutely.
You can see DC Comics dropped a lot of creators, killed what were exclusive contracts, converted them to non-exclusive with a lot of people that were making good money. I would go out there and want to make the best contract I could. The Substack is offering a better deal, and it's to make his own stuff, and he gets to keep all the rights.
Yeah.
There's almost, it's not even a question anymore, right?
No, it's not, especially when you are looking at developing multiple projects with a name like his, who's already had stuff that's, in the works or being optioned and this and that. He's got the high profile where, he can be like, hey, if I put like, half a dozen or so projects out there, even if one of them gets some interest, that's a hell of a lot more money I get to keep than I would have otherwise.
And the word on the street is not only did Something Is Killing the Children get picked up, an option, for like a television kind of treatment, but also the Department of Truth, I think, also has been picked up early in the production cycle as something that might be developed as well. So
yeah, and that makes sense. Department of Truth seems like an easy one to, not easy, but it seems like the kind of thing where you're like, oh, there's an audience for this in television. So
yep, James has developed his own brand. He's got his own fans, and he can sell, whether it's at DC Comics, whether it's Image, and it's at Boom. That's 3 different platforms at the exact same time. He basically doubled Batman sales. He's got Something Is Killing the Children as one of the most successful ongoing books Boom has ever done. And the Department of Truth is one of those indie comics that's really invigorated the sales of Image as well.
Oh yeah, no, and they're well done. I mean, we're getting the spin-off of Something Is Killing the Children. Like, there is, he absolutely made the right call here. I think that's like a no question. I can't imagine anyone being like, I don't know, buddy. What about Batman?
Well, he's got Razor Blades, so he's helping develop other talent and get them published and get their names known. So it feels like he's in it more for he's in it for himself, but he's also in it for comic books as well. I really appreciate that.
So,
he does have 5 projects that he has announced so far. The first one's going to be called Blue Book. It's going to be about like UFOs. That'll be coming out. That'll be his first one coming out of Substack. Then in October, we're going to have Zoo Book. Fourth quarter 2021 is going to be Top Lock. Operation Nightmare in the first quarter of 2022, and then summer 2022 is Operation Dial-Up. So he's got 5 projects in the pipe. So it's not like he just signed this deal and started working on it. He's obviously been doing some work on this for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense when you're doing a lot of these creator-owned comics and you're in it. You develop a lot of pitches, and sometimes you'll have just a stack of pitches you've been developing, and you're like, okay, I'm busy working on this stuff, but as soon as this stuff clears up or my schedule's a little more open, I can go back and develop this. So I'm sure a lot of that stuff have been in development for a while. I know
like the pandemic has really sped this thing up. We know a lot of people, they did pencils down and they started doing their own projects, and they don't want to stop.
Yeah, and you can't blame them, especially someone like James. There's a lot of other creators that just can't do this because they just don't have the name rec and the sales to back it up. But James is someone in a position that can. So, yeah, there's a lot of other creators out there who probably have a nice stack of pitches, but they're just not as attractive to someone like Substack.
Now, I do believe that the Batman job will be coveted. People will want to get on there, maybe do the James Tynion model, get on Batman, get good sales, get some good name recognition, maybe launch a title or two on the indie circuit, and then maybe prepare yourself for a deal like this with Substack. Yeah.
No, that's it will
right.
be.
If DC call you, Joe, are you saying yes?
Oh, I think you'd say yes too. But
absolutely, I'd say yes in a heartbeat. All right,
of course,
that'd be great.
No, but it's going to be interesting because DC is going to have to handle this in a way where it's like, well, we can't just hire someone just to have them get taken by Substack in a couple of years. We have to figure out things with the contract to make it more appealing for the creator involved if we're getting a heavy hitter creator like a James, or we have to have like longer contract terms and things to prevent that. So I think we'll be seeing some adjustments there. But I do think overall we're seeing that Marvel and DC rates and the way things have been going like that for the past few years, they've finally boiled over to a point that they are taking a big hit.
Absolutely. I personally think this is healthy for the industry.
Oh, yeah.
Marvel and DC need competition for their dollars so they can go out there and produce the best comics, period. I think in the long run, this will be healthy. I do believe, short term, it will affect their bottom line because Batman's their bestseller. James Tynion, doubled sales, with a lot of the stuff he was doing. So
he absolutely did. I'm with you, though. In the long run, I think this could turn into the best thing that's happened to Marvel or DC because, less is more. You have less to work with now, and you have to start, figuring out how you're going to go moving forward. You can't be comfortable. You can't be complacent. When with Substack shaking up the industry, it's puts it right on Marvel and DC's shoulders that they have to shake up their own house to get things moving. So, while very short term, this might be shocking. This might be the kind of thing that people go, "Oh no, woe is me!" Marvel and DC are doomed. It's like that's taking it too far. I think long term, this could end up being, if they do it right, the best things that's happened to the big two in a while. So we'll see.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you very much to Joe for coming on here. Breaking news: James Tynion is leaving Batman at issue 117 in November. His final issue at DC will be Joker number 14 in April 2022. He's got an exclusive contract with Substack. He's calling it the best contract he's ever seen. He's getting retaining all the intellectual property rights and publishing rights for the comic books, and he's betting on himself. I personally applaud him. Job well done. I'm a little surprised, but I'm not surprised because we've already saw it with the Amazing Spider-Man writer. Now the Batman writer has jumped over to Substack. Joe, do you have any final words before we wrap this up?
Just congrats to James and everyone else that got on board with Substack. I hope they continue to have an impact in the industry for the better.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.